Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Authors Quill. I hope everyone is truly having a good afternoon around the United States. And if you're not in the U.S., wherever you may happen to be listening to us from, because it is an international show, I hope your early morning and early afternoon, late evening, midnight time, I hope you're enjoying this. And you'll enjoy the show. We have something special lined up for y'all. We're going to talk about quite a few things tonight. And I hope you sit back and relax. I know for my friends overseas, what is it, about 8 p.m. now over there? So, yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's about 10 p.m. over there. If you're in England right now, it's about 10. If you're in Europe anywhere, it's anywhere from 11 on till 2 in the morning. So, I hope you just sit back, have a cocktail. I mean, it's the weekend. I was going to say have a cup of coffee, but it is the weekend. So you don't really have to have a cup of coffee. You can have some spiked coffee, maybe. I would like to have an Irish coffee in an Irish pub just to see if it's the same thing as us we Americans get to drink what they call Irish coffee here. I'm just kind of curious. It would be interesting to find out. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody to the show, and John Goodwin's with us today, and this afternoon, I should say. It's early afternoon for John. He's out there in Cali land, and it's pretty and sunny and shiny and cool and nice and comfortable. No earthquake shaking the ground or nothing. So everything's good, right, John?
Very good. Yes, we haven't. It's warming up though, so all of our June gloom is gone. Now we're really starting to get into summer. Like it's
No.
high 80s, low 90s.
Oh, I wish high 80s. Oh, we're already right 94, 95, 88% humidity, 90% humidity. It's like okay, it's like a sauna, people. Really, legitimately, it's funny because when you're overnights and stuff, you'll be sleeping. Your house is nice and cold. You get up in the morning and you'll walk out the door, and that heat and that dampness just hits you in the face. It's like a wake up call. You're like, "Where's my car again? How far is my car from where I'm at?" It is weird. You get used to it, but there are some good advantages to it. One, it keeps your skin looking young well into your 90s, which is a big plus to living in the deep south. But oh God, in the summertime, it bites big ones. It is just so hot and so muggy. I'm not kidding you. If you're not used to it, if you walk from your car to like the hotel, you'll start sweating. It's just your body is like, what the hell is this? Why am I walking around in wet air? Basically, is what it feels like to not normal people. And you can tell the difference. I mean, people from out of state dress differently than homegrown people do, especially on the weekends. Because on the weekends, locals shed as many clothes as they can. That's illegal because it's hot, and you're walking around in shorts and no shirts and just whatever they can, unless they're in a quarter, and then they're in jeans and boots and t-shirts because you don't want to touch nothing in the quarter. What are you talking about, Carl? No, we're going to actually be talking about Battlefield Earth here in a few minutes. Maybe a couple of other books we might squeeze in.
I got a big stack of books here that I'm all ready to talk about for Father's Day.
Yeah, so yeah, and these are all books that you can go find locally at any Amazon or any place like that. So many people shop online. I would say you can go to your local bookstore and buy them because there are a lot of bookstores in the city. But so many of y'all just click, 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 enter. Okay, my book will be here tomorrow. Amazon has spoiled all of us. When Putin nukes the world, we're going to all be crying, and not because Putin nuked the world, because we don't have Amazon anymore. That's what's going to be the problem. And we're addicted to Amazon. People always tell me we're addicted to TikTok. No, I think we're addicted to Amazon. It's such a great tool. And for what we're talking about today, it's even a better tool. Ronnie, so we'll probably be crossing through the movie and the book because there are differences. Actually, there's quite a lot of differences. And it's been a long time. Oh, man, it's been a long time since I read the book. We're talking, when did it come out?
82.
Jesus. So it's been a long time since I didn't read it when it first came. It was about 2 or 3 years because I was still in the Navy at the time. I think I read it right before I got out of the Navy is when I read it. Yes, because I was in a reading thing. I just read all the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and a bunch of other stuff. And I was just in that kind of mode. So, and it was a friend of mine was actually picking the books. He'd just bring them back to the barracks and, hey, Joe, you ought to read this one. And he comes back with his book about yay thick. I'm like, what the hell is this? He said, we got some free time because we were close to graduation from school. Yes, he said, would you, he said, you ought to read it. So I started reading it, I started reading it. And I read quite a bit the first night. because I was bored out of my mind anyway, and I didn't want to go to the rest of the CEO on the base and just hang out and eat pizza and play video. I just was kind of bored on that too. So I sat there and read it, and I read it in about 3 days, maybe 4, because we had 3 of us shared one dorm, so there was always some kind of distraction in the room so you'd be in the middle of reading, somebody come in and start messing with you, start talking about you, or asking about how things were with this individual or that individual. So you'd have to stop. But regardless, it got read, and then I enjoyed it, and then I didn't think about it again until I seen this poster of John Travolta dressed up in his garb. I was like, well, and then I heard his name. I'm like, well, wait, this sounds familiar. So then I read the bottom, and it says Battlefield Earth on the bottom of the poster. I'm like, oh well, shit, I got to go watch this. And I'm not going to say that I was completely disappointed. There was a lot of stuff I did like in the movie. There's a lot of stuff I think they really, how can I say this politely, screwed up. But that's to be expected. I learned a long time ago. Don't ever expect a movie to be as good as the book. It's a rare thing, with the exception of maybe Dune. It's a rare thing. And oh no, we're not going there today either. We're not talking about Dune today. Not Dune 2. Nope. That's for another show. We'll actually do a show on that coming up. Yeah. No. Well, because I liked it.
About Battlefield, just to handle that. I still like when I go through the social posts. I saw it again today. Like they're talking about 1,000-year-old Harrier jets and cavemen, and like that's not the book. The book,
no, it's
there
not
are no Harrier jets. There are no, cavemen. That was a budget thing. And I've had Roger Christian, who is the director of the movie. He's been a guest on my podcast twice. And he told me what he was trying to do. One, he had a very limited budget. Regardless, it's one of those things that haters love to be able to hate stuff. And if they can group up with other haters, then they can just go to town. But I see more posts saying I've actually watched the movie a couple of times and I enjoyed it. You just have to get rid of the fact that some of these things are not in the book. They're just not there.
You just really and truly, you just have to blot out some parts of the movie, basically. You really do. The acting was okay. I had fun with the characters. I've watched it probably about 5 times now, maybe 4 times. And, because I've always learned with a movie, regardless if I like it or dislike it, I like to watch it a couple of times just in case maybe I was in a bad mood that day that I watched it and I was just taking it out on the movie, because that is I can do that sometimes. So, and with Battlefield Earth, there's a lot of the movie I did enjoy. I had fun with it. It was a fun movie. They just it's like any movie though. I mean, they just take, I was talking with Travis Walton about Fire in the Sky not that long ago, and like the whole second half of the movie is not in the book. It was good the second half of the movie, I'm not going to lie, but it had nothing to do with the book.
The thing too, it's like when Battlefield Earth came out in 2000, it got seriously hit for the Dutch angles and for the breathe tubes, the way they did it there. Take a look at the latest Dune. That's how they handle the breathing. They have the little things hanging from under the nose, but
they're not the only movies that's done that. There's been other movies that have these little things that clip in to their nose.
So it started with Battlefield Earth, so it got knocked for, but other ones after that are totally fine. And the Dutch angles, you take a look at several movies now use Dutch angles, and just Roger Christian said I did it because I was trying to give it more of a graphic novel look, which is what that Dutch angle is. But now it's a common thing you see in movies, and like I said, in Dune, that's what they have for the breathing apparatus is what was created there then. So it's just, haters love to hate and they like to get it. But if someone actually just watches it and just gives it a fair shake, it's not a bad movie. And it's, I attend, half a dozen conventions a year, and someone will come up and say, oh, that movie sucked. And I go, really? So what part? Well, and they didn't watch it. They just like to just come in and try to draw a third and just to see if they can create an effect. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, so what about what do you think about that part when Tony runs into Marianne, and they go, oh, that part sucked. As, you know, say there is no Tony and there's no
Ain't no
Marianne.
damn Tony, and we ain't on Gilligan's Island, so there ain't no Marianne.
You know,
Oh shit!
so
But people,
that's,
people, people are like that though. They, you know, when I was at Dragon Con, was it not this time, but the time before, I was talking to
yeah,
somebody about it, and they were like, I was like, dude, have you really? Because it was like actually it was about 7 I was talking about, and I was like, have you really watched the movie? I said, you know, the gas drones things were cool. All of that fit in just fine. A lot of the other stuff were just fine. That's like, I said, really, the biggest problems I had with the damn movie was the Harriers. And you went from riding a horse to flying a Harrier. That that was just hard to swallow. You know, and especially being in ex-Navy, it was really hard to swallow. I was like,
yeah. See,
Jesus, these guys
the
go to
book has
school
no
forever.
Harriers in it, so
But you know what bothered me about that though? They could have cheated on that. They could have used those you know those learning machines they were using to learn all their secrets. They could have learned how to fly the Harriers with one of those. That would have been a cheat. They could have
yeah,
got around some of the stuff by saying, "Hey, this is stuff they absorbed from Earth that was in here," and at least that was beamed in your head. You had a fair chance of flying it. Harrier is one of the most complicated freaking jets on the planet to fly. Even pilots don't like flying them damn things. They're just dangerous, but it's I mean, it was just then there was other little places in there that was kind of screwy, but you know, especially that they were still eating rats. I was kind of like, nah, we're well past all of that. We're well into the future past that. So
yeah,
I was just, but other than that, if I had to score it on a number, like from 0 to 10, or give it a percentage of how much of the movie, I would say 27%. They should have just rolled up and tossed out of the movie and just left it out and let people figure it out on their own. And the rest of it was fine. The rest of the movie was a good movie. And there was actually some really good scenes in that movie. There was also some good twisty turns in the movie. But the problem is people get stuck on one thing and they can't get past it.
yeah. That's the main thing. I was like the fans didn't come to its defense because it wasn't true to the book. So that's where it ran into problems, and that's what happened
Yeah.
on the first versions of Dune movie as well. It's like it wasn't true to the book, and so fans didn't come to its defense. And the earlier versions of Lord of the Rings it wasn't true to the book, so the fans wouldn't stand up for it. But then once they started becoming more true to the book, then the fans would go ahead and take a stance and defend the movie. But it's just the book itself is a really, really good book. I mean, the movie's good too. You know, like I said, it's
the book is better.
more and more people are like originating more. I actually like the movie, and some people say I've seen it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And
I may have a copy here. I'll have to look. Maybe we'll take a break. I think I got a copy left. I don't know. Maybe not. I give away a lot of books.
To you of the Blu-ray when it came out.
Yeah, I'm gonna look around, and I don't want to promise anybody anything, and know that this is this year's winners right here. Why the hell am I standing up? I don't know. Okay, I think the book's got a little buzz or something. What the hell's going on here? Huh, well, we're gonna have to do it like this then. But anyway, that's this year's winner.
Yeah. But anyway, the reason why I was looking forward to having this show with you and just talking about books is because Father's Day tomorrow, and it's one of the best Father's Day gifts you can have is books. And you're talking about Amazon, and even though it's the day before, you can still buy a book and send it as an ebook. And I was going to show a bunch of books, but unfortunately, most of my books I've got here on my phone on my Amazon app. On Kindle, I can do that, but I did have some. And when I was going through, because I got tons of books, because I do a book like a week almost because of the podcast. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite books ever, this one here, it's
Damn it.
it's called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I read this following Tom Sawyer. And these are the ones that really got me addicted to reading. They're just so good. Tom Sawyer and
God, you know, I don't even know. I shouldn't even say this now, but I had to read quite a few books. I went to private school and it was required we get a book report a week. I hate to say it, some of these books I don't remember. I don't know if it's maybe because I put too much junk on top of them. Because some of these, when I think back on them, I remember I enjoyed them and they were good books. But then if I'm forced to try to go through the book, I'd be lying if I told you I remember what was in them.
Yeah.
Other than specific things that were in them that are just in our society today, just clips, and I would be lying. Damn, I didn't realize that till just now. That bites.
Yeah, it's
I need an extra hard drive for my brain.
but anyway, I love Mark Twain stuff. And then I remember this is many years ago at the Book Expo America. There was this brand new book that came out by this author named Robert Jordan, and it was the Wheel of Time. This is one of the later books, and it's a Wheel of Time. And I remember reading the first book and it was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. And it just took off like crazy, the Wheel of Time. And what's interesting is that this book here, he died before he finished the series. And so I was one of the guests I've also had on the podcast who I've talked to before, Tom Doherty, was the founder of Tor. And he was when it was publishing the series of the Wheel of Time. And so he searched and he found a relatively successful mid-list author. He referred to him as a guy by the name of Brandon Sanderson, who finished the book. He was then hired by Tor to finish the series, and this was his breakout as an author, because now he took over one of the most popular fantasy series that existed at the time. And so then he did this, and now he's the most popular fantasy author out there. But this was the transition. This is the last book 13 of the Wheel of Time series, was Robert Jordan, which was his storyline, and Brandon Sanderson actually finished it. So that was I
ain't turned it into a mini series yet. It's
well, they did there was a TV series, yeah, for the Wheel of Time. I watched 1 or 2 episodes, but that was as far as I got on it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because it's hard. A lot of that stuff is hard to translate into television. It's I know I've seen other books that have been hard. I mean, some I've seen that do it, but I also noticed too in some of the better ones that transfer, the author is involved some way in the writing for the TV series.
Yeah, they can at least be. Well, that's what you've got happening here with the Dune series. We're not, like you said, you're not going to talk about the later ones, but Brian Herbert and Kevin Anderson now are the executive producers. They're the ones that are doing all the script reviews to make sure that it's true to the book. And so they're continuing on. Frank Herbert, who created Dune, was a judge, and he passed earlier on.
Yeah.
I met Brian Herbert at a book signing at a bookstore event here in Los Angeles. I invited him over to the offices, and that's where we invited him to become a judge, and he said yes. So he's been a judge since, I don't know, 20 years now. So that's this one here. But these are all great reads for Father's Day if you're looking for it to give. This is another one here too. Again, I talked to a lot of people. I go, that's a great movie. It's a great movie. But these are books. They're books.
These are books, and they're way more detailed than the movies are. When you get into the Lord of the Rings series, don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on the series. It was a great television theatrical series, a dramatic series. I'm not taking anything away from the movie series. I'm just telling you from personal experience, the books were better than it's. There's details in the books that just couldn't make it into the movie. Some of them are subtle, but one subtle detail you may miss 5, 10, 15, 20, you tend to miss when you see the movie. So there's but I don't want to hate the movies. The movies were good. All 3 of them were good. The Hobbit, see, the Hobbit's in trouble with me. The books were fine, even though I like the Lord of the Rings series better than the Hobbit series, and I do in the movies as well. But some of the Hobbit movies, well,
I didn't see any Hobbit movies. I just read the book.
3 of them. Don't waste your time.
So there's 3 there's 3 Hobbit and 3 Lord of the Ring.
Yeah, 3 Hobbits, 3. So listen. So if you want to just hang out, if you have children and they're under the age of 14, yeah, y'all should all get together and watch these movies. But really and truly, if you're a serious watcher or you have read the books, stay away from these movies. I'm just going to be honest with you. Stay away from them. Oh, you mean Dune Part 2 of Dune? Yes, I have finally watched it. It's been out for a while, and I just finally watched it the other night. I'm going to do a show on remakes, and Dune's going to be part of it. So you'll have to wait to then to get my opinion on that particular movie. I will tell you this: I didn't think I will say I didn't think it was as good as it should have been. But by saying that, there are a lot of good parts of the movie, and we will discuss all of that.
Yeah. Another great author this is a fun series, Kevin Anderson, with his Saga of the Seven Sons. That's one of his most proud of the book. He's written hundreds of books, but he loves this series a lot. So Saga of the Seven Sons. He was also an author. He novelized an L. Ron Hubbard screenplay called I Pedrito, and that was a lot of fun. How he did his research on that. We sent him to South America where he did research there. But
That must have been fun.
And then another one here. He was a guest on my podcast last year, earlier this year. David Weber, Honor Harrington. Just an amazing series, and it's military sci-fi, hard sci-fi. So if you like hard sci-fi, this is really good. And then anyway, so I've got so many books on my Kindle, but I have some of the hardcover books here and there. I've got them all over the place, hidden here at the office, different places, but because I have to read a lot. But it's funny when we talk about books, I talk about the book and you talk about the movie, and
it works out perfect.
Yeah, it's a good yin and yang of the intellectual property there. I watch movies sometimes, but mostly I read the books. And every now and then I'll listen to a book if I have time, because listening to an audiobook takes way longer than I can read it. I read so much faster than
because you have to listen at the rate of the person who's speaking.
Yeah, I'll go to 1.25, but if it goes much faster than 1.25, then it becomes a distraction.
Yeah, it does. It's more like jibber jabber in your ear.
Yeah.
It's oh no, guys. So I listen because I do a lot of driving. And I'm in a position a lot of times where I'm busy doing something else. So I can't read, but I can listen. So that way I can listen, maybe 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day, depending on what's going on and depending on what it is. And I have to enjoy it unless it's something I'm using to work on something. But, oh no. So if I'm listening to a book and let's say I'm 30 minutes in and I'm yawning or stretching, no. I may skip ahead just to see if maybe there's something ahead worth listening to, but usually no. And I hate to say this, John and them have spoiled me on what I should be expecting in this. So I treat movies now like they treat their books, like the contest. yeah, I do. So if you ain't hooking me in the first, I'll give you 20 minutes, and then that's it. So they only give you 2 pages. I'm giving you 20 minutes. That's it, man. I'm sorry. I'm on to something else. And I might be lying. It might only be 10 minutes, but still, I need something that's going to grab me, or at least an opening that makes me go, oh shit, this might be a good movie. And after listening to guys, so I always used to get pissy about people who would start with the end at the beginning and then show you how they got there. So after listening to a couple of the judges speak about this, I started thinking of it from their point of view, and it's actually more enjoyable now for me to listen to it that way, or to read it that way, or to watch it that way, actually. No, because when I was younger, it used to irritate me. I was like, no, what the fuck is going on? And I didn't understand it, and I forgot which 2 judges were talking about it. And I don't know why I can't remember who they were. And they were going on and on about it, and I was like, and they said, start it with the ending first and grab everybody's attention. That way, they'll be going and they'll have to read through the book to see how you got to that point. And I was like, well, that is pretty brilliant, actually. And see, you learn. See, I was telling this to Sean Hazard last night. I said, yeah, Sean. I said, you got to spend a week with him. I said, I've got to spend 5 weeks with him. He's like, oh shit, that's true, ain't it? I said, you'd be surprised at shit I've learned. I said, I'm learning without even trying to learn. Right? He was laughing, but it's true. I ain't even gonna say where I was the other day. So I was invited to speak, just a little political thing. That was about 200 people. And they started in on the Writers of the Future thing. It was just bugging me. But I said, And I told the guy in charge, I said, what's weird? I said, I didn't really realize it until recently. I said, but when I'm talking to people like y'all or groups like y'all, and I'm thinking about it, I said, I've heard these guys now 5 times. I said, some of the stuff they're teaching these classes now is just embedded in the back of my head, just from pure hearing it, like with repetition, it's there now. So I catch myself when people are talking. I said, oh no. I said, I've heard from the best, this is what you should be doing. And I said, and if you win, guess what? You'll get to find out if I was right or not. It is a little weird. It is. It's more from the authors than the illustrators, but still, it's a little weird because when I'm places now, it's just in the back of the head now. It's just back there. I've heard too much of it now, and then of course things I didn't understand, I just would listen when someone asked a question and find out what it was. So. There's a lot more to it than I even thought there was to being an author, to be honest with y'all guys. It just takes a little bit more. I don't want to say concentration because it's not the right word. It's just something that you just have to have that extra something, I guess we'll say. That extra oomph, that extra let me get over the cliff. Because I don't think any good writers are the guys who just sit at home and write flat, write out, just write, just. I don't think they turn out to be the best writers. I think the ones that write with passion and heart turn out to be the best writers. But I could be wrong. We'll see.
Well, it's also, they've also going through, you got to have the passion. You got to love what you're writing. But you also need to practice. You need to have a mastery of language too, so that if you're going to be writing, you can write something that's very flat, or you can just try to, copy or emulate somebody else without your own style. But that's one of the things that writers have. They can take something and like it was, I was writing down the street in my car and that's really flat, but an author can get it and it sounds like, wow, that's a serious event. That's an experience that a real writer can actually do. And I see it when I get these. I ask for a quote from an author, to use on a blurb or do something like that, and they'll give it to me. It's like, yeah, that's a writer. That's an author, because they know words like Orson Scott Card. He's just like, he's brilliant. When he writes something, he's just like, it's just so good. When these guys, they're wordmeisters, and so they do that because they write and write and write. And the adage of you need to, throw away your first million words, half million words. You need to build up enough so you don't have to think about which word to use and which thing you're doing. You can just it just pours out of you, and it just transfers onto the page, and you're really going to create there. And these really good guys, that's what they do, but they've published hundreds of stories. And so that's what you have with these judges.
Oh yeah, they're writing at the yin yang. What do you mean, Bruce? Well, no. Dean Wesley Smith writes with his wife. Well, I shouldn't say. Okay, let me take that back. They write that, yeah,
and with her.
Yeah, I should rephrase that because they both just write. That's the best way of saying it. Yes, he's a character. That's all I can say. Actually, he's giving me some good advice on something I was working on. Yeah, it's all of them. Everybody I've met, all the judges I've met over there. Really are just really nice people who go out of their way to be nice to other people, who really and frankly could probably be doing other things with their lives than that, but they're not. They're there doing that. Well, Frank, you have to win. Yes. Yeah. Just win. It's not that hard. I mean, come on. You got 4 chances a year. Oh, come on. My Chihuahuas could win. Give me a break, man. I'm just not allowed to compete because, I'm family, but y'all can win. I'm telling y'all. Yeah, just submit. Submit something good. I mean, don't submit something stupid. And remember, you heard some of the judges we were just talking about. So put it in your head, who these guys are. It will give you a better chance of winning if you kind of understand who the judges are. No, that's not. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that, actually. All I can tell you is Echo is the coordinating judge for the illustrators. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you who the coordinating judge is for the authors, even I know who it is.
That's totally fine. You can say Jody Lynn Nye is the coordinating judge for the writer contest.
Well, that's who it is. It's Jody Lanai, who is just a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She is one of my favorite people to chat with. She's just a really nice woman. She just seems to have everything together.
Yeah, she loves what she's doing, and she likes writing humorous stuff too. But she worked a lot with Anne McCaffrey when she was still
Yeah.
with us, and a few other authors that have since passed. But she's well over 100 books that she's published, and she's done a lot of books.
And in all fairness, her and Anne's son Todd really is. I didn't mean to cut you off, but is really the ones who woke me up to who Anne McCaffrey was. See, some people like me just didn't know,
Yeah,
which is hard to believe after I found out what she was writing.
yeah, she's got the whole Dragon Riders of Pern series, amongst other things.
Yes. And we were big into dragons when I was younger. No, you can. Well, the best thing is just go right over to writersfuture.com and look for yourself. But I mean, most sci-fi and fantasy is acceptable. Just go look. I could have John tell you, but I mean, you just go look. Just go to the website and look. Everything you need to know there. How many words you can? How many words? Everything is there. All the rules are there. It's just easier to go look. I know him because I've been on the website like 500 million times, and I've talked with John and his wife Emily about it a few times as well. So they're kind of stuck in the back of my head too. You mean what I recommend? Of course I would. I've done many lectures since I met this gentleman, probably over 100, and in every one of them I have recommended Writers of the Future. And there's a multitude of different lectures. Some were political, some were ufology, some were how you should get into radio and your own radio station, how to actually develop a podcast to where it actually gets a lot of listeners. Yeah, I actually give lectures on a lot of things, and it always comes up somewhere along the line. Yeah, because it's if you win, like when I'm doing media lectures, I'm always interested in knowing, what is this about? And I said, it's about paying forward. See, and even they got me stuck with this in my head now. And I said, and just paying back. I said, they just want to give back. I said, it's no more than, I said, when it comes right down to it, that's what this is about. I said, we can say it's, to help the writers, which it is, and get the famous judges to help the writers, which is also true. But when it comes right down to it, for everybody involved, I'm not just talking about L. Ron Hubbard. I'm talking about everybody involved. Everybody who works for Author Services and for Galaxy Press, everybody, all the judges, everybody who is there. That's what this is about, paying back. They'll tell you, you don't have to believe me. If you ever win, you can ask them for yourself. They'll tell you yourself. They go out of their way to do it. I got to tell y'all, I wouldn't bring y'all to lunch with me. I'd be like, get that. I'm going to lunch. Leave me alone, people. And I've watched at least 5 of the judges. Hey, you want to come to lunch with me? You want to come to dinner with me? I'm like, oh, please. I'd be shooting people. Only person I'm going to have dinner with is John. Everybody else better leave me alone. Oh, no. No, it's not that I don't talk to everybody. I do. It's just sometimes I like, to sit in a little bit of quiet. I mean, it's already noisy all the time when you're there. So it's a great thing. If you win, you'll truly enjoy it. You'll be
Yeah,
a little
it's a lot of fun when we had the barbecue that we do on the 2 nights before the event, where we have the judges and the winners, and we all eat together. This year it was on our rooftop here at our offices, and these people they get to meet Kevin Anderson or Larry Niven. Brandon Sanderson wasn't here this year, but he's been there before. Nedia Corfor and
they're just a great group. And I mean, and that's the other thing too. It's not always the same judges, guys. So you'll get there sometimes, Oh, hey Colleen, how you been? I ain't seen you in forever. It's just a great thing all the way around. And I'll tell you a little secret. Shh, y'all can't be spreading this shit around, okay? If you win, and let's say you live somewhere near Atlanta or near San Diego or near Utah, and they're there, which John goes to all these damn cons, you get to come and hang out and maybe sign some books or sign some autographs on some artwork. Hey.
Yeah.
And you know how much money it costs, y'all? Shh. Don't tell anybody. I'm just saying. Y'all are missing out. So I would really and truly, write in. Yeah, so go get your dad a book for the holiday, something good, something fantasy. Well, you should know what your dad likes. Go get him something, and then while he's reading, you should be writing. Really, you should be writing. Write something good. People, look, I'm telling y'all, sci-fi sucks right now. Go write something good. I need. Oh no, see, these stories are great, but they're this long. I need like 2 hours. Maybe 3 hours. I can just immerse my brain in. Yes, something that I can actually sit there, because I have a hard time sitting still. John will tell you that. I'm sure anybody knows me will tell you that. So I need something that's going to grab me. If you can grab me and hold me there for 3 hours, that thing is going to be a multi-billion-dollar seller for sure. I'm just telling you, no movie who's ever been able to hold me there didn't make a lot of money. Well, for instance, the last 3 Star Wars movies, I couldn't even watch all the way through the movie. Ain't that a bitch? And I'm a big Star Wars fan. Eventually, I went back and watched the endos, and you know what? They didn't do very well either. So it's I think sometimes people just think that they can do whatever and write whatever and make a movie out of whatever just because there's a large fan base. But sometimes fans are paying attention and get aggravated and upset. Well, they just do. Well, I was just reading. I was thinking about Battlefield Earth. I was just reading the other day. That's a pretty large fan base, just like there is for Babylon 5 or Expanse or any of these type shows or movies. Just people who have watched it and liked it and are now, longtime fans. I wouldn't go say cults. Let's get crazy now. Fans. Fans are kind of cultish to start off with. Belima. I'm sorry. What were you asking? My favorite book ever, or John's favorite book? I don't see. Y'all ask these questions sometimes. I've talked to John about this before. It's hard for me to answer a question like that because I can think of several books that I would rank probably around the same place. Same thing with movies. I could probably rank them around the same place. Kirby, I did not read Ender's Game. I actually have met the author and spoke to him about Ender's Game, but I have never read it. Yeah, thanks to John, he introduced me to Arthur Scott Card last year, and him and I have done 2 interviews. I haven't talked to him recently, in the last 3 months, but
yeah, I'm going to doing a workshop with him next month in Florida with Scott Card.
I always like listening to him talk.
But for me, the thing that got me, like to say like what's the favorite books? I've read hundreds of books now. Is different books have different significance. Like
true.
when I read Call of the Wild by Jack London, that's what got me involved and really interested. I was like 12 or 13 then. That's what got me really interested in adventure fiction, and so that to me was like, oh, it was so cool. So I love that. I pointed out the Huckleberry Finn. I read that after I read Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer, similar type thing. It was just a really good adventure fiction that a young boy, Tom Sawyer, what he was going through. That was really good. But then when I read the Lensman series by E. Doc Smith, that's what hooked me on science fiction. I hadn't really read it before because then I was reading adventure fiction, so I really got into that. When I read Battlefield Earth, there's a whole different kind because that was adventure science fiction, and it went from you have a local scene here. It takes place. It's 1,000 years in the future. I hadn't really read a lot of dystopian stuff. That wasn't my cup of tea, but I read this, and man was an endangered species. And you see this guy that comes down from the mountains there by Colorado Springs, and he gets captured. And it's his discovery of what was going on, what happened 1,000 years ago. And because of this learning machine, he's learning and learning and learning. And the arrogance of these cyclos, because they dominate the galaxies. They're just but you find out how they became that way, and then ultimately it's their arrogance that undoes them. And so it's the whole thing of how John is coming back, taking back the planet, but then he discovers there's other races, and now the planet, which he thought was his, now is up for auction by the Intergalactic Banking Company, and he has enough money to pay off the debt that the planet owes. So now he's got to deal with that, and it becomes more and more of a intergalactic. But it's more than just science fiction; it's also finance, it's politics, it's religion. He touches on all these different areas, and that's one of the things that makes science fiction, I think, so successful these days, because you can take these issues like we've got, you do your politics, and when you get into politics right now, you've kind of like figured out how to deal with it by being the centralist, so you attack both sides of the table. But
Yes.
when you get into politics, you're automatically going to cut off half the viewers or listeners or
It's true.
fans, because if you're not with me, you're against me, which is the current mentality, which sucks, but nevertheless, that's the mentality. You can't have somebody that just says, can we just talk about it? No. If you don't believe what I'm saying, then you're against me, and it's back to the old one valued logic. There can be only one.
That's true.
And so you see that right now, and I see a lot in politics. But if you get into science fiction, in another planet, in another time zone, then it's like you can look and go, oh, that's ridiculous. Isn't that so stupid? Even though it's a direct parody of what's happening right now, but you can look at that and see how crazy that is, and then be able to think about it. You can discuss those types of things. And so science fiction can address like what Star Trek did back in the 60s by having a black woman kiss a white man. That had never been done before.
No, it hadn't either. That was serious. That was
And
a
these
serious TV thing.
First that were done. It's like you look at it now and go like, whatever. But then it was like groundbreaking, what was happening in several episodes.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because Gene Roddenberry had a way of dealing with cultural things without offending his audience. I'm not sure how he did it, because I've watched many Star Trek.
You put it into another area. It's you put it in the future. You put it in another galaxy, and you can do things that you can't do when it's right now. And
maybe that's what the problem is for some of these shows. They try to say, okay, right here and now. Well, people are just into that, and a lot of people get upset when you put lessons into their sci-fi. Like, see, that's the thing. You have to do it where they're really not paying attention to it. That's how Roddenberry did it. But a lot of the new guys haven't figured that out yet. Well, guys, one of the lecture series I do is on how to keep yourself out of the left or right side of politics. It's about an hour and a half lecture, and it's about an hour and 10-minute lecture, and it's really on. The lecture starts off with basically, if I said Trump was the greatest thing in the world, what would you say? And then I said Biden was the greatest thing in the world, what would you say? And then I said, what I would say is that both what's, and let's move on to where we should be. And then the audience right off the bat is off their feet, because it doesn't matter what side they're on. I just kick both of them in the ass. So they both are going to hate me and love me at the same time, because I hated on the other guy, but still didn't choose a side. You can't, and John's absolutely 100% right. When you do any of this, and I talk about when I'm down there with him, when you cannot choose a political side, or for that matter, a religious side, and expect not to lose half your audience, because you're going to. If you get out there and you're preaching, like right now, it's a presidential year, and if you chose a side as a president, and we've watched this with movie stars 100 times, big ones that are making half the money they used to be, because, well, and look at poor Disney. Disney went all kind of woke, and all of a sudden lost half its audience. They're the smallest. Disney is now the smallest broadcasting group out of all the groups out there on cable now. How'd that happen? Because you isolated yourself. You can't do it. You have to be in the middle. You have to be, look, I know my guy is not the best guy. I know your guy's not the best guy. Maybe we can find a guy who can get in between that might be the best guy. And I don't mean they have to all be guys before anybody writes to John. Yes, I'm serious. It's but now you could do this in some type of sci-fi show where you show how what happens to individuals when they do these kind of things, or you could just do a flat out TV series about it. But I would be more happy if you went out and bought a good book and gave it to your daddy, and then while he was reading it, you went home and wrote a book so that we had something to read next year. Yes. Well, no, I mean you can get it right now. It's available. No, look, it's been available for a month, right, John?
Which, yeah, for Rise of the Future, for sure.
Yeah, you can get it. It's available right now.
Yeah. It's in
Go
bookstores
out.
all over the United States, Canada. It's releasing next month in UK, South Africa, and Australia, but you can buy it right now on an ebook and an audiobook. We also have an audiobook.
Yeah, it's no, you can get it. No, the last 2 years are in audiobooks. Yeah, I wish you'd get them ahead of time. Well, with this, when they send them to me, I usually read it when I get it, and that's not the reading copy you sent me, but I usually get it, or maybe it is because it's got a crease in it. I usually get it and then I read it on the airplane as well. Well, because when you read it after you read it the first time, it's pretty easy to cruise through it the second time. There's just good stories in there. You just take your time, but a little warning. They do try to arrange the story so they kind of flow. With the types of stories they are, but still you can find yourself going from one type of world to another type of world to another type of world. Yeah, it's interesting. And in one of them, and what's really interesting about this one is they had some really good world builders that won this year. There was at least three of the authors I talked to, including the twins, not the twins, but the sisters, were all good world builders. So, oh no, I'm looking forward to a book that the sisters were talking about because they've been building this one world for how long? Since they were kids, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to turn into one hell of a book if they ever get it together. But I'm more of a near now sci-fi kind of guy. Yes, that's why I like Altered Carbon and The Expanse and things like that.
One thing that's
Babylon
really
5.
scary on that one there is you've had him as a guest before, Bill Fawcett. He came out with a book recently, and that's the podcast that didn't go this morning. That just went up, so that'll air next week. But that's Never Again is the book that we talked about, and that's near future hard sci-fi, military sci-fi, and that takes place in the Middle East. And it's the only thing that's not plausible about it is the batteries in the mech suits. He said, if we get the batteries part handled, then everything I'm giving you right now, all the stuff that was been worked on by DARPA and all the stuff, that's all actual technology. It's just that you need a really long extension cord to handle them.
Well, yeah. So I seen a good friend of mine sent me actually a live action of one of the new suits. The problem is if this don't have that, it has a battery, but the real problem is, first off, the backpack weighs 80 pounds. Because of the battery. I think the battery is like 45 pounds by itself, plus whatever gear you got. Now, it makes you invisible to anybody looking. It also allows you it has those bullets. So whatever you're looking at, the bullet goes to, poof. Whatever you see, it doesn't matter where you at, people. If you see it, it just goes there. There's quite a few other features besides that, like being able to see around corners and stuff, but they're great. But you can't first off, we're putting women in the military now. A built guy like when I was when I was in the service, when I was at my height, toting around 80 pounds all day would be a lot to do. Not that we couldn't probably do it all day, but you'd be so wore out you wouldn't want to fight with anybody. Now let's talk about some 5'5", 150-pound girl toting this around all day. I don't care how muscular she is; it's going to wear the hell out of her. So they needed something. They talked about a waist strap with like lithium batteries, and then they got scared the lithium batteries would get too hot and burn up the soldiers. They got a long ways to go. Sooner or later, somebody will come out with some charging system or battery system that will lighten this down to about 20 pounds, and you'll see them out all over the place. But right now, not so much.
Yeah, we need to see the lithium crystals, and we're all set.
And that's right. That's something cool. Or when we come out with cold fusion, and you can make little reactors this big. Yeah. Actually, I would bet you now that this is something that is feasible, that we have actually figured out how to make work, sort of. I think you'll start seeing more sci-fi about that now. How our society will be in 100 years if your house and your boat and everything you have is powered by cold fusion. Think of it this way: the ones they're talking about, so the ones that'll power your house will be about this big, same size as one will power your car, your boat, and they'll be interchangeable. You can just take it out and plug it in, unplug it. There won't even be there won't be any plugs. You just set it in a thing, and it'll draw its energy out. And one that size would probably last 500 to 1,000 years. The ones they're talking about power in New York and Los Angeles, they'll probably last 25,000 years. And 2 of them will be able to power the city completely with lots of power left over. Then you can have your stupid electric cars, Callies, but not right now. That's all stuff that's on its way. So that's all good stuff to write sci-fi about. Of course, dark matter, helium-3, antimatter, that's all stuff we're working with too. Of course, I think antimatter we've kept... I think we might have made it to 1 second now. Before it was always measured in milliseconds. Yes, because that's as long as we could keep it in this world. Remember, people, it's antimatter we're talking about. We got to be able to contain it. And in order to make energy out of it, we have to be able to contain it for as long as we need it. And there's a lot of stuff. I don't want to get into anything dark matter because nobody has a clue what the hell dark matter is. No. Scientists want to know, but they I probably know more than they do. They don't have a clue what this stuff is now. Maybe when we meet some alien, somebody can help us out and say, hey, this is what actually dark matter is. But there's a lot of other stuff. Like I just said, cold fusion and antimatter alone are enough to power our world forever. And cold fusion done right, you won't need anything. And it won't even be dangerous. It's not like nuclear fission. It's not hot either. You could actually hold the damn thing in your hand. It wouldn't irradiate you and it wouldn't burn you. I know. It's a different kind of fuel. We're working on it. We've actually repeated the experiment several times now. They're actually building a generator for New York City. So, well, could it be turned into a bomb? I don't know. But that also make good sci-fi. Just finished a fusion reactor in Los Angeles, and now some terrorist group has turned it into a bomb, and who's going to keep it from blowing up? That'd be good sci-fi. I'm just trying to give you people ideas. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, there's another author that I've had on as a guest. Who writes near future sci-fi named James Rassone. And that one there is, again, this near future military sci-fi, science fiction, to me is really scary because it's the technology that used to be so obviously science fiction is now science fact.
Yeah.
And the part that science fiction is real soon to becoming science fact as well. And, it talked about this one here is how China was, they actually attacked the United States. And it was, this was in a couple years in the future. And it was, they created this game that we've talked about this before. They created this game that took the world by storm. Everybody's involved with it. They never, in the book, he never names the app, but we know which app was created by China. And they're using that to get all the user identities and get all the profiles. Like what do Americans do? What do Brits do? What do all the different countries? What do they do? And based on that, they know how people react. And then they can also follow individuals. How does this person react to different scenarios? Because they can track them if they're on social media. And then it goes into the AI and deep fake and what's happening there that you can then, they would get political figures like the head of US and the head of Britain and the head of these other countries and have them saying things they didn't say, but they would cause conflict and a lot of dissension within the country. And then they'd be able to, because of all that, the distraction going on, then they could come in and they could do their other cyber attacks and put deep agents in there to cause havoc and stuff like that. And then they started getting into the more high tech of these automated soldiers. And you look at this stuff and go, that's all right there. It's just right around the corner. And if it's programmed and the AI, because that's one of the things that right now I saw a video recently from Elon Musk about AI. He said, you should be concerned. You should be concerned about it. Because,
yeah, he's pretty much anti-AI. He's
yeah, because whatever you program to do, it's going to do. So if you tell it to protect whatever it is or to do whatever it is. And if humans at some point on that equation are considered to be opposition to that, then their objective will be to get rid of humans, which you go, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. I don't know any of that stuff's ridiculous. And you look at like what's happening right now with idiots in business and politics that are trying to get rid of currency and try to get rid of.
Well, you see, Elon told all of his employees, if you've got an Apple phone, you have to get rid of it. You can't bring it in he said, so what they did was, for now, they made a Faraday cage and they put the phones inside the cage, and that's where they stay as long as they're on his property. But he said he would prefer employees not use Apple. He said ever since they added AI, they are a risk to his security at his facilities.
Yeah.
So he's hardcore, but he's hardcore on a lot of stuff. I mean, but it's like, he's a good kind of guy to write about in a sci-fi way, because, he's the one he bought out Twitter so we could all find out that we were being lied to by the government, by Facebook and Twitter and a bunch of other people. So he broke all those stories and made it real by spending $40 billion of his own dollars to prove it to America.
Yeah,
Jimmy, he can't run for office. He can be a senator or a congressman. He can't be vice president or president. He's not native born. He's the richest.
He's not American.
He is the richest African American in the world. Yes. No, that's a true statement. He's the richest African American in the world. He's from Africa and he's an American and he's the richest person in the world. I don't know what else you want me to explain it to you. I know it gets confusing sometimes. But he's real strict on us, so it'd be good. And then, I always talk about him being Drax from Moonraker in 007. The guy went up to the moon and built his own base and was going to kill everybody on Earth. See, I'm thinking everybody's always talking, China and the United States going to Mars. No, Elon is going to Mars. He's going to be there before any of us get there. He'll probably have 1 million people in the base established before the United States or Russia even plans on going. He might decide, you know what? Mars is no longer a free planet. Mars is my planet. Stay the bleep off of my planet or I will blow your ass out of the sky. And I have no doubt that he can develop laser weapons pretty quickly. He's pretty sharp when it comes to developing stuff. So
he read. Sure. I mean, he's so well read on science fiction. I've only met him once, and I talked to him. This was at a premiere of a Star Wars movie several years ago here in Hollywood. I was talking to him. I asked him, have you read Battlefield? He said, yeah, it's a great book. I asked him for a blurb. He said, no, thank you. But it was, he said, yeah, it was a good book. But he read, and he's just read so much science fiction. That's like an inspiration for him. And every time I've talked to any of the engineers and the technicians that have built the various robotics on Mars, and one guy that was the head of one of the NASA agencies, they were inspired by science fiction. They read science fiction. It's like, yeah, I want to do that. And that's, what you've got there. They were inspired by it, and they build the technology to be able to do it.
And he's inspiring the future astronauts in the world.
Yeah.
Future scientists. Well, today astronauts are different, ladies and gentlemen. In the old days, you had to be like a test pilot and have all your stuff together. Now you can just be a scientist and get your ass shot into space. And once they start the Mars colony, you can just be a maintenance girl and get yourself shot into space. Oh, yeah. Elon's already taught. I had said this 2 decades ago when I signed up for there's a project in Europe where they were taking names for people who had skills that could be useful on a planet. And there's 2,000 names they took, actually. But anyway, it's interesting because once the colony is established, you're going to have electricians. You can't have your scientists who are up there to do science running around fixing the electrical problems because they won't be able to get their science done. And most scientists are not going to want to fix the commode to start off with. You're going to have people cooking, people taking care of your gardens, people taking care of everything, doctors, no lawyers. I think lawyers should be freaking banned from Mars. I'm just, enough of the lawyers. Look what they've done to our country. 80% of Congress is lawyers, so I think we need to move past that. And but you're going to need all just regular, everyday people. It's so they'll be looking for just everyday people to go to Mars. Yes, You know, they'll need chefs, they'll need cooks, they'll need cleanup people, they'll need serving people, they'll need everybody. Oh yeah, they'll need people to fix the air conditioning, people to keep the oxygen flowing. They're not going to assign their big scientists to this when they can just bring in people from Earth, which will probably be making good money because they went to go stay on Mars. But that's just the way it works. You'll need everyday people. It's like when I hear these utopian people tell me, "Well, the all the rich organizations are going to get killed together. They're going to kill everybody but 500,000 people, all the rich people." Right? I said, "Okay." I said, "So which ones of the rich people are going to go grease up the airplane and make sure it's ready for flight?" I said, which ones are going to go make sure the electric plant is running? Which one's going to cook their foods? Which one's going to grow their foods? I said, if you're talking about sustaining a population of 500,000 rich people, you're going to need about 2.5 billion, maybe 3 billion normal everyday people. It says, always been a problem with you people's utopia dreams. Somebody's got to support the colony. And the richie and the science are not going to be the ones doing it. It's just going to be people. And you're still going to need artists and authors and entertainers because, I mean, you want to just sit around on Mars with your finger up your butt going, oh, well, why'd I come here again? And the Earth stuff's only going to be good for so long. You're going to want to start creating your own. It's just something to think about. You know, I know a lot of people tell me they want to go to Mars, and we'll see if that happens or not. Shit, Chris, I'd go to Mars. Remember what are you talking about? I'd already be living there. Oh yeah, but I like adventures. Mm-hmm. I'm weird like that.
But that's also what's good about reading, because right now, and that's one of the things too that's good about books. Keeping on Authors Quill here, so it's the thing with reading is it helps you you can escape like where you're right now. You may or may not have whatever stresses, but it gives you an opportunity when you really get into a good book. You can be transported to that location, that area, that time, and if it's a character you can identify with, which is one thing that Hubbard was great with on his characters, is very easy to people identify with them. You can then, for that little bit, go out there and just chill, with life as it is, and just really enjoy that. And that's what makes a good book is just it's worth its weight in gold. It really is.
It really is. It got me through tech school. It got me through boot camp and tech school. Even though boot camp we didn't get to do as much reading, it got me through tech school. I mean, I was in tech school for 14, 16 months, and it got me through that. And even when I was doing my special forces tour, it got me through that. Well, because a lot of it, you're just sitting around at night bored. Got me through prisoner of war camp, even though I got in trouble for it. Yeah, we smuggled in. So we knew we were going, they drop you off and they know you're going to get captured because it's part of the thing. It's prisoner of war camp. And we smuggled in 2 books and we were reading them. And then when we tried to escape 2 different times, first time we didn't make it, got our asses beat for it too. Second time we actually made it, but you get an accommodation for getting out. I was going to keep trying. And I mean, I got a promotion over it. So anyway, we smuggled them in. As far as I know, them 2 books are probably still in that place even today. They were passing them around. I was talking to people who came out 6, 7 months later. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine who went much later. He goes, "Thanks for the books, man. They still there. They keep them hidden in this little brick in the wall. They're still passing them books. I bet you go today, they still passing them around. Because you're sitting there bored out of your mind, and they got some stupid shit playing on the PA nonstop, and you want something to distract your brain so you're not listening to it. So anything to read. It got bad. People were reading the labels on their shirts and shorts and pants and shit. Yeah, you have to have something to keep your brain from going crazy. Yeah, so having books is a good thing. Yeah, I went to. I don't exactly know where we were. Some place in the middle of nowhere, and the closest town I think was like 7 miles. We made it to the bar room. That's how we got caught the first time. We stopped at the bar room. Apparently, everybody escapes. Goes second time. On the other hand, I got out, got the cell phone, called my friend of mine, had him come pick us up. Yeah, we made it all the way back to New Orleans, and then we turned ourselves in later on. Yeah, about 3 days later. I can't tell you all that's classified. But all that stuff is fun. But I mean, you learn so much stuff. You can just, even when you're reading sci-fi, or any of the fantasy, I notice a lot of it has a lot of the ancient world in it. Even modern day sci-fi that's in the future will sometimes be using. Well, look at Stargate. I mean, Stargate is nothing but stuff from Egypt. And even when they're off world, half the stuff they're talking about is from Egypt. Almost all the names they're using are Egyptian names. So you get to learn things that you probably didn't even know existed, or barely knew existed. And you start hearing these names in sci-fi, which of course the average person will go look it up to see what the hell it is. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I've learned a lot. It got me through a lot of hard nights and got me through a lot of different schools. Oh yes, it just for me personally, it helps out. But like I say, I like near now sci-fi better than anything else. It's a personal choice. I like all sci-fi. I'm not going to lie, and I like a lot of fantasy, but I like near sci-fi the best. Yes, I like things that when I'm watching it, it feels more like how we would be in 50 or 100 or 150 years. It's one of the things I like about The Expanse. That is almost between Expanse and Babylon 5. That's almost just perfectly the way it will be as a society getting into space. You can take it to the bank, man. I mean, whoever wrote those actually knew how society worked. Yeah, I enjoy it. And say favorite TV series right now. I don't get to watch that much TV, so I don't really know. No, I haven't. See, like Vikings, I haven't read or watched Vikings. Mm-mm. Nope, not even a little bit. Linda loves it to death, but I haven't read or watched it. I don't know. John, have you watched or read the Viking series?
No.
Mm. I don't know why. I mean, I don't want to hate on it because I don't know anything about it. And I haven't. You know what? I have not watched or read the new Galactica series. I just hadn't had any interest in it. It's too much drama for me. If there's not some fun in the sci-fi, I'm not interested in it. Because I've been in hairy, scary situations and we've broke out laughing and said really stupid shit because that's the way the mind copes with stuff. When you see these dramatic things and there's no comedy in it all, you know it's not real. It's just so it kind of makes it hard to watch or hard to read for that matter. Right now,
I know one fantasy is called The Man Who Lost India. It's Magna Pant is her name, and she's one of the most award-winning authors in India. I met her several years ago here in Los Angeles, and so I saw her. We've been friends on Facebook, so I reached out to her. She said, "I'd love to be on your podcast." So I'm going to be interviewing her at the beginning of July. But it's interesting because this takes place in India, and I'm not familiar with India, so it takes me a lot more time to get used to the nomenclature and the towns and everything's relation to China. And China's invaded India, and they've kind of like taken it over because they had the drought in China, so they went to get rid of India, and it's really interesting how it's a fantasy where they're Shiva, whichever the major in one of the cities, protects that city from all the bombs when they were attacking India. And so I'm about a third of the way through the book right now. But it's interesting how it's a whole different ethnic people, language, when what they do that's fun. It's just I'm really anxious to do this interview because I'm so used to Western culture and Western sense of morality and what's fun and not fun and the whole way of there, where the father can say who the daughters can get married to and that whole ethnic over there, whereas over here it's like that's long since not part of our culture. And it's I'm finding it fast. It's been a slow read for me because I'm having to clear up a lot of stuff to be able to really understand it because I won't do a podcast unless I've read the book. And so I'm anxious to get through it. It's dystopian, but it's fantasy. So I'm learning something new on it. It's not just about this, but just taking another another take on fantasy, how it is so different over there, and that she's one of the best-selling authors and award-winning authors in India. It's like, wow, I'm fascinated by this. That it's so different for me, So I'm really anxious to get through this and do the interview with her, because fantasy can speak so much to so many people, and same thing with science fiction. But it was just amazing just how that's happening, because I'm so used to reading the Western stuff. You're talking about the different TV series, but
No, it's different. Some of my directors, I have 7 directors in India, and the cultural differences are extreme. Not in a bad way, but I mean they just are. A lot of what they would do would be considered illegal in this country, and a lot of what we do over there would seem just weird to them. It's just a different world, is what it
yeah,
is. And eventually, those worlds will intermingle somewhere along and catch up with each other, and maybe because of the Brits, but it is big. It's different. When I'm talking to them, even the way we express things sometimes is just way different for them. They're like, well, what do you mean? And sometimes you get offended. I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to offend you. That's just the way Americans talk. And they're like, oh, okay. And it's a different place. And then, and the way they treat certain people is much different than the way you could treat somebody here. It's just a different. Johnny, it'll catch up one day. It's just right now, it's just not how it is. So when you're reading things or watching things from them, sometimes Americans, especially the woke culture, might get really offended. But for them, this isn't an offense. It's just part of life. And we have to remember that. It's not always good to just judge people because you can do it. Sometimes you need to figure out what their society is like before you start judging.
Yeah. Which of course doesn't happen, because the thing too, you've got, and especially now it's even more so with social media, just pumping constantly. And that's what's really scary, is that it's now being driven by AI.
Yep.
On these channels. So it's already pre-programmed with what they want to be able to have as an attitude or a way of thinking, and pushing that. Fortunately, I read a lot of different things, so I can keep a perspective on stuff. But when I see the slant on different media channels, and people actually buy into that, and I get daily news feeds from both sides of the political spectrum, it's just crazy seeing they really believe what they're saying.
And they do really believe what you're saying. That's truly the scary part.
Because that's how you get your vigilantes. That's how you get your, you read these stories about, the various civilizations in the past, and you go, oh, that's ridiculous how somebody would do that. I take a look at this right now. You even take a look at how, pre-segregation, well, that's how the blacks are treated. You kind of go, well, how is this different now? You've got, you got Republicans and Democrats, how each treats each other. It's not dissimilar to that type of stuff, where you get ostracized, you can get, revoked your whole life. I mean, what they're doing right now with, like George Washington, or because he had slaves, so then we've got to get rid of him, disown him, or
yeah.
Some of
hide our history away. Yeah.
It's just it's amazing how that can do that, and so it gets written out of history.
And then we forget. Yeah, and then we forget, and then we make the same mistake again.
Exactly. So the only way that Nazi Germany can happen again is by doing exactly what we're doing right now, by erasing it and saying it didn't exist. The people that were doing it, that stuff doesn't count. It's just it's pretty crazy. But that's one thing good about science fiction. You can actually keep on looking at these different concepts and just dealing with it and have an opinion on it. And then hopefully some people will be able to, okay, I see that. That's, that the people that do have a sense of honor and a sense of doing what's right, and the greatest good for the greatest number of people, can still have an opportunity to do the right thing.
Well, Yeah, everybody needs the opportunity to do the right thing. I just it's just hard today in our society, and you would think with the internet and television and all the other media out there that the world societies would be closer to what they are. But I was watching this article in Russia the other night, and how they're not getting any media other than their own.
That's right.
They don't see the European media, and a lot of times in China they don't see any of the media but their own. See, the UN should right then and there kick them out. Say, look, if you don't let world media into your nation, then you're out. We won't let you in. You have to go. Besides, all they do is veto shit anyway, so they need to go. Well, people, we need to stop it. It just needs to stop. And countries want to take over or do this. It always cracks me up when people say, "Oh, well, let's get behind this communist country." Really, why would we get behind a communist country again? Make me understand that. Maybe if you're a principality, you might get behind a communist country, but the rest of the free world's like, wait, what? No, it just doesn't work that way. So, as society, we have to be open to other societies, and we have to figure out ways how to bring societies together so that as a planet, we don't blow ourselves off in a real sci-fi movie like The Last of Days when there's nobody left, or some crazy idiot politicians that locked themselves underground and killed everybody off and then got to come back out later on. Doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that science fiction does. It can also give that warning, like, okay, so let's take a look at it. If we don't change, look at how things are moving. To let's reconsider this because it's moving very rapidly towards this outcome, and do we really want that? And like you're saying, like there are those one worlders that they just want to have the elite few there and wipe out everything else. But to support that, you need billions of people anyway to be able to operate. When you have your aristocracy, because they need the people that's going to provide for them, they're not going to do it for sure. You
No,
know,
they're not. That's the thing, and they need you, but they don't think about that. And what cracks me up is the idiots wouldn't think about it till the end, and now they'd be like, "Well, wait, who's cooking my steak?
yeah.
Who's
Who's ironing my
where's
shirt? Come on,
yeah?
who's
Where
doing
the
that?
hell does steak come from? We're out of steak. Where did it come from? The grocery store is empty. Oh, well, that means you got to go out and kill one and take care of it yourself. Well, and then 99% of wealthy people on this planet don't even know how to do that, and wouldn't do it if they could. So I mean, it's most of these fantasies I always laugh about. Plus, I always laugh about the ones that tell me, "Well, the Bilderberg's going to take over," or the Masons. You know what, people? All you have to remember is all these groups that we talk about that do exist hate each other. Yes, they hate each other. It's probably the reason we still have free will on the planet is because they hate each other and they can't get along and they're not going to get along. And the Masons don't think the Skull and Bones should be in charge, and the Skull and Bones don't think the Bilderbergs should be in charge, and so on and so forth and so such. So none of them will ever be because the other powers that be won't allow it. And eventually, money in the way we see it today will fade out. It'll move into a different type of way of doing things. Well, cash is a bad thing. It makes people do bad things. And look how many TV series, especially sci-fi series, have what they call basic assistance for the majority of the planet. You get a free house, a free apartment, free money, and that's where you get to start out life right there.
Yeah, and that's how it starts. Socialism, communism makes it. That's their sales pitch.
Yeah, so I don't know what to tell y'all, but at the rate we're going, we're going to end up there. What do you mean, like Saudi using Chinese money now? The Chinese yen, let them. The yen is worth like 5 cents on the dollar right now. that was. I don't like talking about politics, but that was one of the worst business decisions I have seen. I don't know who made it. It couldn't have been the old man. It had to be the prince. So right now, I think the yen against the dollar is like 5 cents on the dollar, which means Saudi, who was using the dollar, which was way up, is now using the yen, which is way down. So how much ever they were worth, let's say they were worth $50 billion. Now they're worth $5 billion. Ain't that a bitch? That's what happens when you get greedy and you don't know what you're doing. Yes, I know how it is. And see, that's a whole book in itself. That's a whole book. How China and Saudi and the United States all got together and did that. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know it's but BRICS or whatever they call it. It's Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Venezuela. It's like the seven poorest countries in the world, except for Saudi. Russia's money is worth nothing, even though their economy is doing good. Their GDP this year went up 3.6%, but their money is worth nothing. China's money is worth nothing. Iran's money is worth nothing. Saudi Arabia's money is now worth nothing. Yeah. Actually, if I was Joe Biden, I'd go buy up a bunch of oil right now. See, that's another book. See, there's all these books come out of these conversations. People, y'all should be writing. Mm. Just this whole election year should be a book. Actually, this will probably be several books.
Probably will be several books.
Yes, it'll probably be several books. No, we're not going to talk about all of that, but I don't care who y'all are voting for. It doesn't matter to me. You vote for whoever you want. Yes. John said he's running. You should vote for him. Mm-hmm.
He's running for
President of Los
book
Angeles.
picture of the year.
Okay, president of Hollywood. How's that? Well, that's where his office is. Hollywood. So. Yeah, Hollywood needs to have its own jurisdiction. You know, I know there's a mayor for Los Angeles, but maybe there should be a mayor just for Hollywood.
Yeah, the Hollywood's the land of nuts and fruits. But
That,
anyway,
that's true. That's a good book in itself. I don't know. You're pushing me to tell you my favorite sci-fi book, but I don't really have one. And my favorite sci-fi movie right now, I don't really have one of them either. No, there's just nothing that just pops to mind. That's all. Now, I am on book 7 on Mission Earth, so I got 2.5 books left to finish that. And it's only taken me like 2 years. It's well, we're done. When it's done, John and I will come on here and talk about it. Now, y'all still can't get the audio version, but when I'm done, I shouldn't say John. John's already read the damn thing probably like 3 times. When I'm done, John and I'll come on here and talk about it. Yes,
absolutely.
There's a lot of fun stuff in it.
Quick little. I got to check one thing. I'll be right back.
Yeah. And by the way, you can buy the book Mission Earth. I gave away quite a few last year, so yeah, you can buy it if that's what you want to do. That'd make a good book for the old man to read. It's a fun book. Well, the first book is kind of slow, and then you start getting into it as it goes on. It's 10 books altogether, and they did it in an audio book, which is really really fun to listen to. There's a lot of this. There's a lot. So, Saltar, the protagonist, is insane. So the politest way I can say it, and but it's fun to listen to. It's definitely different. But what's so funny about it is so much of what's in this book that was written 20 years ago, 30 years ago, shit, I think it might have even been 40 years ago, comes into play in our politics and our daily lives today. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Well, it just seems to be that. What do you mean? Was the writer? The writer was L. Ron Hubbard, but he. So do you mean he was just that far ahead, or was it just our politics repeats? Our politics repeat each other. Well, remember, until the 90s, we didn't have a House and Senate full of lawyers. Today we do. The majority of the people in the House and Senate today are lawyers. Mainly because they can afford it. Yeah, they can afford the money to be in the House and the Senate. Glenda Reese. You won one of the books, Mission Earth. Yeah, well, it's pretty good. No, I haven't got to the end, so don't tell me. No, don't tell me. Mm-hmm. No, I don't want to know. No, I'll find out soon enough. I'll be finished with it in a couple of weeks, and then I'll come back and we can talk about it. Oh, you found Altered Carbon? Yeah, I was talking about it the other night, and so you got a chance to watch it. I told you there's some pretty heavy nudity in it. Hmm. Well, normally I have a rule. Usually, if I see T and A, what do you mean you don't know? Usually, if I see T and A in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I won't watch a movie. Christopher T and A, tits and ass. Yes, I usually won't watch it because it usually means it's going to be garbage. I mean, usually, if you got to start out with showing boobies right out the get go, usually you just don't have a good movie. But actually, it turned out to be pretty good. No, I was surprised. Oh, there's a lot of that throughout. There's a lot of nudity throughout the whole series. And so Tick or Talk actually has three different bodies. Well, he actually has more than that, but he has three main character bodies here. Well, if you haven't got to season 2 yet, that's Captain America, the Black Captain America. Yes, yeah, that's who it is. I know the guy from the first one, but for some reason I can't remember his name. And then his real body is he's from Asia. It's interesting. It's fun to watch. It's near now sci-fi, which within probably 100, 150 years, 100 to 300 years, and not really any further than that. Yeah. So yeah. So just don't watch it with kids. That's all I'm telling you. Yes. You know what? I don't think there is a book on it. I think it was just a series that was written. I don't think there is.
What are you talking about there?
Oh, we were talking about Altered Carbon. No, somebody had just came in to tell me they had watched it from the other day. Uh, and I had told him, he said, yeah, there's a lot of nudity in it. I said, yeah, there's a lot. It's but the series, but the science is really good and solid. Well, there's a lot of military in there too. So John was talking about military earlier. There's a lot of military in there. To protectorate, I mean, they're pretty much just hardcore military.
So it is based upon a novel. It's
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Altered Carbon is an American cyberpunk television series created by Leda Kalogridis and based on the 2002 novel of the same title by English author Richard K. Morgan.
Mm, I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to find the novel and read it. It's well, there y'all go, guys. So there's a novel. Y'all go out and read it and tell me what the. I'll let y'all read it and tell me what the difference is. I like the series. Yes, I always warn people don't watch it with your kids. Yes, because there is a lot of you know what in it. Mm-hmm. And Expanse, believe it or not, there's quite a bit of nudity in Expanse too. Not nothing like Altered Carbon, no. But it's another one that opens up with a nude scene. So, and again, it got lucky because I usually, if it's in the first 5 minutes of the movie, I usually won't watch it. Yeah, because I usually figure it's going to be garbage. Because like I said a little while ago, if you got to start out with boobies, you're not probably got a good movie there.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
Christopher, no, he played. You're talking about The Witcher. Yeah, Superman used to be The Witcher, but somebody else took over this year or last year. I don't know. I don't watch it. I haven't read it or watched it. I've read one of the Helsinki books. I don't know which one it was. Technically, it was a vampire book anyway, but it was about him. But there's so many. I mean, there's like 5 movies about that particular character. Yeah, what is it? Van Helsinki. What is he? The werewolf, Frankenstein killer, vampire killer. Mm. Yeah, there's a bunch of movies about him. Yeah, and there's some pretty heavy, famous people that played him. But it's the same. It's like Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man. There must be 10 movies out there now and shows and cartoons, and the origin story is the same for each one. So every time they make a new Spider-Man, they keep the same origin story. So if you know what the origin story is, there's not even any reason to watch the movie. It's not my thing. I'm looking for something right now that's sci-fi-ishy. That, like I said earlier, they can take me away for an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours. No, I'm going to talk about Dune. I'm just not done talking about it tonight. We only got like 18 minutes left anyway. And I did watch it 2 nights ago. I sat there and watched the whole entire movie through. Um, I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe my expectations were too high. Well, being a fan of Dune, it's possible. So I'm going to rewatch it before I talk about it. But I'll probably watch it this weekend again, and then maybe in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll do a show about it. Maybe we'll do a show about all of these like Battlefield Earth and Dune. There's a couple other ones I'd like to talk about too. Well, this way you can get your likes in and your bitches out. How's that?
Maybe we can work out getting Kevin Anderson on as a guest.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, and Kevin can answer some questions for us. Well, I've always learned never to hate on a writer when a movie doesn't go the way you expect it, because the writers only write. They don't have control over how the movie's going to be produced or even how their writing's going to be used. I learned that from my own stuff, and I'm not even a famous actor, and I've learned that lesson. For Prometheus, I must have 30 hours of tape with them. I think they've used like 19 minutes of it. Yeah, so it's not, writers write, and then the company decides, do I like this section, or would I rather make it like this, or would I like to leave this scene out? Um, it's not really up to the author.
Yeah, like Orson Scott Card was just very upset with on his movie because in Ender's Game, he's like 8 years old.
Yeah,
but in the movie, he's a young teen. And it's a romance story in there as well. And Scott was saying, no, that's not what the story is. He was really upset with the movie, because it missed the point of what he was talking about, what's being done right now with kids, and the whole thing of what he was doing with Battle School. But anyway, he said, don't do this, and that's what they did. So
yeah, that's what they did.
He put his 2 cents worth, but they didn't accept it.
Yeah, because the people who run that shit's going to do whatever they want. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame that's the way, because, I've talked about this a lot over the years, the last 30 years of gaming. People say, oh, well, our kids game. I said all of our kids game. And a lot of them play first-person shooter games, or they're driving tanks or planes or whatever. Well, now a lot of these kids who used to do gaming are actually working for the military, flying tanks or jets or helicopters or all kind of types of drones.
Right.
And they're the ones who are getting to kill people and blow stuff up. And for them, it's still a game, basically. They're not the ones who gives the order to kill somebody. They're just the ones that, do it. And somebody else gives the order to do it.
Well, that's the whole Space Force recruitment program.
Yep. And
they went after gamers, because they're doing stuff from computers, and so they're remote running these ops.
And what do you mean, did I play? Oh yeah, I was a big gamer when I was young. That's why my damn son's hooked on them. But even though, well, no, I played a lot of sci-fi games. But I also played stuff like golf, Pebble Beach, things like that. I used to like to get a bottle of wine and play some Pebble Beach. Have a couple of friends over. But we played all kind of other stuff, and all kind of sci-fi games where you're jumping from planet to planet. But they're playing a more serious version of first-person shooter games. I watched what my son was playing when he was growing up. They're pretty serious games, which take pretty serious skills at that, no less. So I mean, if we're building automatons right now, human-looking things that are almost 10 foot tall, they're going to walk around machine guns and kill people. I personally have an issue with putting AI in anything that's weaponized. I think that we should keep the triggers on those and not the AI. You want to let AI fly the damn thing there, that's fine. But when it comes to killing somebody, it shouldn't be AI. So here's a good one for y'all. First, Google experiment with AI. AI is doing this military thing, doing this for the military, where they're sending out. Now these are all training exercises. So they're sending out the drones to kill this particular target. Well, the drone was having a problem killing the target. So you know what the drone did? The drone came back and killed the instructor and flew back and killed the target the way it needed to kill it. Yeah, that's exactly how it did it. First question Google ever asked ChatGPT was, how do you save the planet? You know what its answer was? Get rid of humans. That's
Yeah,
what
exactly.
cancer.
That's the whole thing about be careful what you ask for, because
Yeah,
it
it takes
doesn't
it
have the
literally.
personalities
Well,
that humans have. It's just a straight boom.
so I've asked this 100 times. I even wrote into Google. I said, well, when are you going to ask it, how do you save the human race? What do you do to save you? You've already asked it how to save the planet. You know what it told you. So now you need to ask it how to save the human race on Earth and see what the answer is then. But they don't want to do that because they're not going to like what the answers are. And they're not going to want to do what the answers are. So, but you got to be careful. It's AI. It doesn't have feelings. It's being taught by us, which is already dangerous. And then we're going to go around and let it decide whether it can kill people or not. No, it just does not seem like a good idea. Make a good sci-fi book, mind you, but it doesn't seem to be a good idea. Randy, I don't have any left, but you can get them at galaxypress.com. Yes. Missioners, yeah, the book's out, but the audiobook's not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can go over and get it. Yeah, no, I had some, but I think I gave my last one away last time John and I were talking about this subject. Yeah, I think I gave it away. I got one left, but that's my excuse me. That's my personal copy. So I always keep one copy for myself at the library, but other than that, unless they're autographed, then I keep them and they go in the autograph section of the library. So Jamie, I would just is he big time in the sci-fi dad is? Maybe Dune will be a good read for him. Especially if he didn't like the movie, I think that maybe give him the book and let him read the book.
Has he read Battlefield Earth yet?
That's has he? Jamie has he? Give him both.
Yeah. I
Let
mean,
him read it.
you can get the ebook on these books for the price. If you're going to go to a Starbucks and get a fancy coffee, it's the same price as a fancy cup of coffee at a Starbucks or at a coffee shop.
No, I know what you mean, Jimmy. No, you just I mean, you can get them on Galaxy and all, but you can go to Galaxy Press, but I mean, you can get on Amazon and all them and get it.
Yeah.
2 books and books a million and books and no, yeah.
If
You get
you're
them
near a
all.
bookstore too, like Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, if you're in the United States, they carry both Battlefield Earth and Dune, so you can definitely find the books there and
Yeah,
give it.
you can get them there. I mean, if you just want to go
Yeah.
physically go do a little shop and hang out in the bookstore. Well, like my oldest stepson, he likes to go because he likes to hang out in the bookstore. He likes to read in the bookstore. He just likes the atmosphere. Yeah. Well, different things for different people. So, I like to get out sometimes. I don't always want to get my stuff from Amazon, even though I do order a lot of stuff from Amazon. I'm not going to lie. It's I still every once in a while want to go get something physical myself. No, not electronics. If it's electronics, it's coming from online somewhere because it's always cheaper. But a lot of other stuff, especially clothes, I like to see my own clothes. And any of my suits are always tailored, so you got to go out to have that done anyway. Frankie, so you can get a nice tailored suit without spending $1 million, right? I mean, you can get some nice suits. Yeah, they're out there. They got decent prices on them.
Yeah.
You mean the cheapest suit I have is $750. Well, I like the little nicer suits. They're not top of the line. They're probably a little above the top of the middle. Yeah, the most expensive one I have, about $3,500. It's a deep blue one. The thing is so soft, I hate to wear it. I mean, it's just like soft. You start snuggling until you go right to sleep. I have 12. I have 12 suits altogether. Only 4 which fit my big fat ass right now. Yeah. The problem is when I lose enough weight to be in the other 8, the other 4 are going to be too big for me. Yeah, I'll keep them. I can always have them taken down if I wanted to, but no, I like. I've always said this. You should always dress. Men look good in suits. I don't care what kind of woman you like. Women like men in suits. Don't ask me. It's a thing. What are you talking about? What's my favorite outfit for a woman? Oh, I'm not touching that. No, I'm not touching that. What do you think? I'm stupid? How do you think I've been mad?
We're not going to talk about your stretch bikinis right now. But anyway,
No. I actually like a dress, but we're not going to get into that. I'm just saying. It's just I like for just like men. I like a woman to be dressed. I think it's one reason I like going to nice events, even like the gala. I like people who, look their best.
Yeah.
I can see any skanky person on the streets of New Orleans anytime I want, man. I mean, come on, give me a break. Do I attend events down here? I do sometimes. My problem is attending events down here. A lot of my customers attend, and I don't always like hanging out with my customers. No, they're all nice people. It's just, they always want to talk about business, and I'm not usually there for that kind of business. I'm usually there for something else, usually media or press or something. So I don't really want to be talking contracting. Yeah, just one of the things.
We already talked about.
I haven't. You know what? I was just asked this by one of the authors the other day. He put me on the spot. I don't know which one of them is my favorite yet. Out of the 5 I've read, the ones I've been there for, I've read more than 5 now. I think I have like 12 or 14 of them all together now. But out of the 5 I've read, I don't know which one's my favorite. I got hung up on this one story, so maybe it might push me to that particular book. But it's not even the best story. I just got hung up on it for some reason. It's about some girl hiding a monster in her house. That's like the real quick and cut of it, but I don't know why. It just got hung in my head. Sometimes that kind of shit happens. I think 38.
That was volume 38. That was number 38. Agatha's Monster is what it was called.
Yeah. It's I don't, but I still haven't read this one. I usually read them 3 times, so I haven't read this one again yet. So we'll see. Because sometimes when I'm
really
reading,
good. And these are the best new authors as chosen by the big names. And so I have no decision on who the winners are. So, and we have entrants from all over the world. So when they're selected and picked, we just got another huge review from UK, which was just rave about how amazing these stories are yet again. It's like they really are the best of the best in science fiction and fantasy. So if you like science fiction fantasy or you're looking for new authors, these books, you read this year's volume, in a couple of years, those are authors you're going to read. Like you had the 2 years ago, there was the what was the one about the death of the taxman?
Oh yeah, and that
it's hilarious. It's really fun. And then he came out with a novel last year or this past year, and it was great. Really fun.
It's right here, actually. It's my copy, but
yeah.
So this is it right here.
Yeah, and the gal that did the art was the winner in the illustrators contest, and she did now the art for this one here. It's just they're amazing. And so when these guys come out, so like you've got Nadia Corfer, who's published in volume 19. Now she just had the cover of Publishers Weekly this week. Or you've got these various winners that go on now to major careers writing, and so you really will discover your next favorite authors because these guys are going to make it.
They I like a lot.
Yeah, so this Colleen Benson. I did an interview with Jim Butcher that was up a few months ago. It was a really good interview, and he's got it on his website too. He's a podcast with him, just super good guy. And it was interesting. It took a while to be able to get him, but then once he did it, he was totally into the interview. This is when we were at a writing conference in Colorado Springs earlier this year. So it was, but Dresden Files are really good. And I asked him, so what book should somebody, if they want to know what book to start with? And he said, start with like volume 7 of Dresden Files, because we were talking about an author getting into their own. And he said, it took me about volume 7 before I was like, okay, this is me now. This is my best, and moving forward from there. Because I read volume 1 to do the interview, and which I thoroughly enjoyed. But he said, start with volume 7. I said, okay.
Oh, see, there you go. It's is it? Well, what do you mean? Who's John? John is the host of Writers of the Future. Yes. And the president of Galaxy Press, yes, that's who he is. Mm-hmm. What do you mean that you thought there was a woman host? Well, technically there is, and her name's Emily. We're not going to take her last
She's
night.
at our warehouse right now. She's pulling stock to get ready to go out to our summer conventions because we're going to Atlanta, we're going to Tampa, we're going to Salt Lake City, we're actually going to San Diego in a few weeks for San Diego Comic-Con. So yeah, she's getting all the pallets ready. She went out there with a few other people to pull them while I did this interview.
You couldn't pay this woman to sit still. Hell no, you could not. No, but I don't care what you offered. She'd rather be moving around. And if you paid her a lot of money to sit still, she might sit still for like 5 minutes. That's it. She'd be moving again. I love to pick on. She's one of my favorite people to pick on. Yes, she is. She's a sweetheart. Emily is actually John's wife. Yes, Emily Goodwin. Yes. Well, I don't always say her last name because I like to give her trouble, but yes. Well, I don't want any of you perverts out there getting any ideas. That's all. I know. Hey, no, she's a whirlwind. Watching her and watching Joni when I'm there is amazing to me how much they say. See, John, I get to see more often, so I can stalk him down and catch him if he's not doing interviews. We can have lunch and stuff. But those two, Joni, trying to get her to sit down is like pulling teeth. I'm like, Joni, sit down. Joni, sit down. Joni, sit down. I grab her hand. Sit down.
Her phone's always going off with somebody always wants it for something or all the winners and judges. And then Emily, because she produces the gala, she's she's out there setting up for the gala and running all the rehearsals.
Yeah, I don't even look for Emily until later in the evening. Yes, and that's when I'll track her down. Usually, I will see John and her in the evenings. We can have a glass of wine and chit chat about different stuff, and they keep me informed on what's going on there. The judges keep me informed on what's going on, and of course, I'm talking to all the winners all the time. I see the winners all day long. If I'm not in the class with them, I see them at lunch or at dinner or at BarCon or whatever it may be. No,
it's called LobbyCon. I finally learned.
Yeah, this year it was LobbyCon. Yes.
Well, it became LobbyCon after we had one of our winners, 14, 15 years. I was like a minor, maybe 16 years old, that was there. And the parents said, "What's this BarCon?" And so we officially changed the name to LobbyCon.
That's a good idea because a lot of times it is just LobbyCon.
Yeah, a lot of people just come there to be able to chat.
I never sit at the bar. I always sit
and just talk after the conference is over.
No, Chris, I never sit in the bar. I actually sit in the lobby. Well, first off, the chairs in the lobby are much more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I know the bartenders now. I've made friends with them. So, yes, because people in California didn't know what iced tea was. How can you not know what iced tea was? 2 different hotels they were iced tea. I'm like, yeah, you don't know what iced tea is? Really? Give me a break, man. Come on. I know I'm from the deep south, but please. And I know friends that drink tea in California, so I'm kind of like, what's going on out here, man? It's a conspiracy.
We drink herbal tea out here.
I drink herbal tea. I drink good tea. Well, it depends what kind of mood I'm in, but I'll drink anything from a good black tea to a good green tea and some stuff in between. But I have a lot of Asian friends. So like last time I was there, I got to go to a Japanese tea ceremony. So it's well, I got a lot of Asian friends. What can I say? It's and it's always funny because I always ask them if they're good cooks, and they say, "Oh no, I hear you from New Orleans. I want you to cook." I was like, I don't know, man. I charge to cook these days. Frank, no, I'm a good cook. No, I'm definitely in the chef quality. I'm not a cook, but I learned from some of the best. Yes. Well, actually, my baby brother, when he got out of the RV business, became a chef in Colorado. Yes, he moved up to Colorado Springs and became a chef. What can I tell you? He went from one lifestyle to another. Yeah, he's still not as good as I am. He pisses him off too, but what can I say? Well, we were all at my sister's house a couple of years back, and then he was making stuff, and he's good. He's making good breakfast. I said, let me show you what good breakfast is, brother. And my sister said, "Oh shit, here we go." And we had our kitchen. Thank God she had a huge kitchen because we had it ripped up from one end to the other end. We made a lot of good food. Yes, I like to cook. Yeah, my wife's a good cook too. Mm-hmm. Most people down here are decent cooks because where we're from, we learn to be good at what we do. Frank, no, we're getting ready to go. What question do you have? Kevin J. Anderson was the one who wrote in Dune, right? Did I have it right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's the he's listening to the credits on the executive producer, and he what he does is he goes through all the script and makes sure that they're not violating anything in the script, and he makes the corrections as needed. He and Brian Herbert, both they're writing partners on these books, and so he goes through and makes sure that they're staying true to Frank Herbert, and so that's what they do.
Yeah, well, and I gotta give them credit for the most part in the entire movie, both part 1 and 2. They stayed pretty close to the original movie. Different actors, of course, but the original movie. But I thought about that when they were doing it. It's hard to go against the original movie because first off, there were a lot of classical actors in that one, including Patrick Stewart. So, which by the time, no, Jimmy, Patrick Stewart at the time was nobody. Yeah, no, he was.
I didn't like the original movie. It was so much. He's always thinking in his head.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
I just and, that was a little turn off for me. So that's why I like this one better. But anyway, if we're going to be turning off soon, I just want to make sure that people know that Father's Day is tomorrow, unless you're in Australia, in which case it's today. And take advantage of what we've gone over here and get a book for your dad. Whatever that book is, we're talking about science fiction and fantasy, but any type of book is really good. It's a really good ability to escape, just enjoy, just chill and enjoy something, get a nice beverage to enjoy and just relax and just read a good book. Specifically, we're talking about Battlefield Earth, Dune, and Writers of the Future, which are all like amazing. If you like short fiction, Rise of the Future is really good and promise you that you're going to find at least one good story in there, no matter what. And in Battlefield Earth, nearly 5 million copies sold. You can't go wrong with that. And Dune is probably comparable in sales. Can't go wrong with that.
We can go back 20 years on the Rise of the Future books, right? 20, 21 years. I forgot. I know I asked you, but I forgot. Somebody asked me the other day, and I forgot. I know they're not all. Well, so I know all of these aren't available. All of the Writers of the Future 40 volumes aren't available, but I thought there was like. Man,
yeah,
I know
go
you
back
told
to
me.
volume 20. You can get now. The problem we had was in those first 20 years, on the initial contracts, there was no such thing. Beginning, there were no audiobooks. It was just the print, and then there was no ebooks. So the original contracts had no clause for being able to produce an audiobook or an ebook. So those we can only do the print edition, and the amount of work to go back and get new contracts and to deal with the estates if the authors are dead, the judges are dead, just various things. It's way too much hassle. So those at some point we're going to go through a thing where we'll scan them and do more trade paperback print on demand, but they're going to be expensive.
Yeah, I can understand that. I really could. I forgot who just recently Arthur asked me about it. And I said no. So I thought when I talked to John, he said like 20 books or so. I said, but I said next time I see him, I'll ask him.
Yeah, volume 20 to 40. And you can find the earlier books on eBay. Sometimes we have them.
But I mean, that's like 288 stories at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know we're talking at least 12 stories a year and 144 every 10 years. So yeah, or 12 years. So yeah, it should be. It's a lot of stories, people. I mean, you can spend a lot of time reading.
Yeah.
Plus, when you're on, see, this is why I like sending y'all to John's site versus Amazon, because when you're on their site, there's a ton of other stuff that you can look at. I mean, there's a ton of other books and there's a ton of other audio books, but there's also other pieces of equipment you can get to make your life easier. And if you go by the kind of, I'd like to call the 20s retro covers, which I love. That's not what they actually are. They just kind of have that 20s retro look to them. It's there's some good stories in it. I've read. Well, no, actually, Brucey, I didn't read any of his sci-fi. Other than Battlefield Earth, I've read from Elron. I read like I make 4 of them like country and western is the best way I can describe them. 2 of them would just be like maybe 3 of them would be more like world adventure.
Well, he wrote a lot of adventure, military fiction. He wrote definitely wrote a lot of westerns, a lot of thrillers. He did quite a few crime mystery detective type stuff. But he wrote.
Oh no, there was one sci-fi I wrote. It had a blonde-headed girl and a rocket ship on the cover. I don't know why I can't remember the name, but actually, it's a pretty good story. It's. I just when I get the urge to read something, I had the pad and it's gone, but I would just pull it out or read it or listen. Because every now and then, sometimes I'll stay up to 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And even though my TV's on, I'm usually not watching it. I'm doing something else. I'm either looking at stuff on my pad, setting up stuff at the station, or talking to somebody. Yes, my friends stay up as late as I do, actually. Um, I don't know. It's just one of them things. And the weekends, I don't sleep. I was up till 1:30 in the morning talking with Sean Hazlitt from News and the Flip Side last night. I went to bed 6:10 this morning. And I actually read something while I was up. Yeah, so it's just one of them things. Oh, by the way, people, remember, I'm looking for several things. Don't forget, make donations to the station because we need all kind of stuff. But we are looking for some new hard drives for the network. We have now reached over 20 terabytes. And so we have one empty hard drive left. I think it's either 4 or 5 terabytes. So it's going to be full pretty soon, probably within 6 or 7 months. I'm also looking for anybody's got any these type of cords that go in your microphones, like for the Yetis and stuff. Somehow one of mine got destroyed. It got ripped out of a Yeti and the top ripped off of the cord. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, see, that's how I am, Colleen. I really go to bed early. Yeah, stuff like that. And of course, always make donations to the network. Donations help the network and everybody else on the network. It also allows for us to reach further and further out into the cosmos, all around our planet. See, we go out to every country on the planet, but we want to make sure that we're not just hitting a city or we want to be reaching all over India. We have seven or eight servers in India. India's much bigger than that. So none of the rural area gets us. China's a little different. We have a few more. I think we have 24 servers in China now, so it's a little different. But even there, a good part of their country is not getting us. The United States, we're in 400 cities. And remember, we don't count anything smaller than, I think, 10 or 15. So, yeah. Well, I say 400 cities. They could have, well, no, population-wise, it could be 1,000 people living there. I don't actually know. I'd have to go look and see which ones they are. But yeah, 400 different places in the United States listen to us. And then we're in places like Timbuktu, which I didn't even think was real. Yazoo City, which I didn't think was real. By the way, Yazoo City's in Mississippi. I don't think any of these places were real. Turn out they are. Shangri-La, Singapore, well, over the damn place. Actually, Singapore we do quite well in. Hong Kong we do quite well in. Beijing we do quite well in. There's a lot of stuff we talk about that the Asian world really likes. Of course, we're in Australia, Sydney. We're all over Australia. I think they get us in all the provinces there, just like they do in Canada. We're in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Yes, the most peaceful place on earth. If there's paradise on earth, it's New Zealand. No snakes, no spiders, tempered weather. Yes, you have to get past the Krakens to get there, mind you. That's where you're taking an airplane. Well, there's giant squids and big ass whales and stuff around it, and big sharks. But other than that, when you get on the island itself, it's just a very peaceful little place. Yes, I don't care what the politics is. They're not going to be bothering me any. It just seems to be a very peaceful place. But we got to go. Any moans, groans, bitches, or gripes, of course, you please write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of John Goodwin. Just make sure you put that on there. And oh no, he'll have a new show coming up next week. We didn't run one this week because we're playing catch up on all of our featured stuff. We've got another 2 or 3 days of playing catch up on our featured stuff. Once all of that works down, all of the shows revert back to new shows. Well, you're talking about reruns, Peter. So if a show is a rerun and it's in video only, it doesn't get posted to the rerun queue. No. Because a lot of our places won't take it. If it posts up on Podbean, a couple of the other companies that it's attached to, like Spotify, won't accept it. They don't accept MP4s. And Podbean don't like them because it takes up too much space. SoundCloud's really the only place that'll take them. So we prefer that we just don't put them up. It makes it easier on us and easier on everybody else. Plus, they take a long time to upload. So if it's a show like that, you probably won't see it, but everybody else's shows will be up. They all are up right now. Currently, with the exception of Fridays and today's shows, everybody else is up, so you can go see them and listen to them. Wave at everybody, say hi to everybody. The videos are on. They're not on UFO Paranormal right now. They are on UFOs, Extraterrestrials, and Gods. That's where they're located. Really hard for some reason to find on YouTube. I don't know why, but when I look for it on YouTube, and I can't even find it half the time, but that is where it is. I would just type in UFO extraterrestrial guides and the name of the show you are looking for, and it'll bring you right there. Thank you, Colleen. Um, well, happy late Mama's Day to you. Who Peter? No, I'm talking to somebody in the chat room with us, where y'all should all be, by the way. Yes, if y'all were here, John could see what y'all were saying when y'all are being ignorant. Yeah, that's why y'all want to stay in Messenger. I know what's going on here. But we got to go, guys and girls. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to United Public Radio and the Authors Cube. Don't forget, come back and hang out with us. Writers of the Future's first next week, followed by Echo's show. What is it called? The Professional Artist, I believe.
Yeah.
And then followed by this one. And we have 2 new shows are going to be joining us in a couple of weeks. One will be following this one, and one will be opening for John. Well, John show's not supposed to be. It was originally an opening show when it was on Mondays, and then we put somebody ahead of it. But on Saturdays, it's not actually designed to be an open show. Well, if you no more free shows on network, sorry guys. But you can get on for an hour. You can probably get on as cheap as $50, maybe. But they're going fast. There's not many slots left except for daytime slots, and even those are going fast. And no, the network's not going to split until later in the year. So, and you need to be here when it does split. It guarantees you a good spot. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, that's Michelle DeRoche. So actually, if you're really truly serious, write fine. Go to Facebook on Michelle DeRoche, get her email and write to her. And I think it's Michelle DeRoche at Gmail. It's like mderoche at Gmail or something. Or yeah, I think it's at Yahoo. See, I don't even know. Y'all gonna have to go find out. But write to her. She does all the guest acquisitions and placements. You can talk to me and I can recommend you, but in the end, it's her decision. Yeah, it's her decision, not mine. Because she's the boss. I'm just the owner. She's the boss. It's easier that way. She does a good job. Excuse me. She does a good job on keeping me from having to kill anybody. So that's always a good sign. The show's network's not where it needs to be money-wise, but it is getting there. So she's doing a good job on that as well. On that note, good night. Stay tuned. Oh, I was going to say Scott Bakula, but he's not on until midnight. Anyway, there's a rerun of The Gray Zone coming up. Actually, it's probably already started. Be sure to catch the rerun of The Gray Zone with myself and Michelle DeRoche, and no telling what it is because I don't know what it is. Be sure to come back and catch us all next week and listen to the lineup. Listen to the whole network lineup. Find your favorite shows. Write to me, actually, at iCartCoxonet and tell me what your favorite shows are. Let me know who's your number one favorite. I already know it's going to be me, but still, right. Anyway. On that note, good night. See y'all all. I'll see y'all all Wednesday. John will see y'all Saturday. Until then, have some fun and enjoy your lives. Have a great Father's Day. Go out and get your dad a book. It don't matter if you're a girl or a guy. Go out and buy your dad a book. Buy him something. But listen, people, and I'm going to say this before we leave. You should know your dad's taste in books by now, especially if you're over 10 years old. Buy him something he likes. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening to United Public Radio and the Authors Quill, and we will see you next week. Dun, dun, dun.